Hello, good morning. It's time to read the news. This is PODDOM.capd.com. Irrelevant at this point. All right. What is important here, I think, is the news. And there goes the music. Streaming showdown and a ceremony shakeup set stage for Oscar Sunday. Los Angeles, March 27, Reuters. A dark western, The Power of the Dog, will battle feel-good deaf family drama Coda for the film industry's top honor on Sunday when, free of last year's pandemic restrictions, a large Hollywood crowd gathers for the Academy Awards. The films are front-runners for the Best Picture trophy at a red carpet Oscars ceremony, promising a few plot twists. Among them, a win by either movie will mark a milestone by handing the statuette to a streaming service. Netflix released Power of the Dog, while Coda streamed on Apple TV+. After past complaints about a lack of diversity, 2 of this year's 4 acting accolades may go to people of color. Will Smith is likely to earn his first Oscar for King Richard, awards watchers say, as is Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Comedians Amy Schumer, Regina Hall, and Wanda Sykes will host, and it's the first time 3 women have guided the ceremony in its 94-year history. Beyonce and Billie Eilish will perform. In a bid to draw more viewers, especially younger ones, after years of declining ratings, the 3-hour show starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will add 2 awards, the result of fan votes on Twitter for favorite film and scene. The ceremony, broadcast live on Walt Disney Company's ABC, will also feature a moment of support for Ukraine. Producers want the show to be celebratory, but said they could not ignore the crisis there. In the Best Picture race, success hinges on whether the 9,900 members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences back a gothic psychological thriller or an uplifting story. The pundits has always said, "You never know who's going to win," said People Magazine's movies editor Nigel Smith. This year, it actually seems to be the case. Power of the Dog, starring Benedict Cumberbatch as a repressed cowboy who torments his brother's new wife, outpaced all movies with 12 nominations. It had been considered the leader until Coda landed top honors from the Screen Actors Guild and Producers Guild. Coda tells the story of a hearing girl who serves as interpreter for her deaf family, but longs to pursue a career in music. Coda is an acronym for Child of Deaf Adult. Important steps forward. A traditional Hollywood studio could score an upset. Award experts give an outside shot to Kenneth Branagh's Belfast, a film inspired by his childhood in Northern Ireland at the onset of the sectarian conflict known as the Troubles, or Steven Spielberg's West Side Story remake. King Richard star Smith is the Best Actor favorite for playing the determined father of tennis legends Venus and Serena Williams. Competitors include Cumberbatch and Andrew Garfield for musical Tick Tock Boom. Best Actress is the most unpredictable. Many experts say Jessica Chastain's portrayal of TV evangelist Tammy Faye Baker will triumph, though some give the edge to former Twilight vampire Kristen Stewart for playing Princess Diana in Spencer. Previous Oscar winners Nicole Kidman, Penelope Cruz, and Olivia Colman also are in the running. While the acting field is not as diverse as last year's, it is certainly better than what we saw a few years back with Oscars So White, said UCLA Dean of Social Sciences Darnell Hunt, co-author of an annual Hollywood Diversity Report. The Academy has taken important steps forward. In supporting actor categories, Afro-Latina actress DeBose is expected to prevail her portrayal of Anita in West Side Story. Coda star Troy Koster could make history as the first deaf man to win an Oscar. Jane Campion also could become the third woman in Oscar history to win Best Director for Power of the Dog. After a scaled-down ceremony at a train station last year, the Oscars have returned to the Dolby Theater, which will be filled to about three-quarters capacity with 2,500 guests, allowing for some distancing. To streamline the show, winners of 8 categories, such as editing and sound, will be announced before the live broadcast. Their speeches will be edited into the telecast. Steven Spielberg and others criticized the movie as an insult to film craftspeople. Okay. On to some war news. Russia warns media, don't report interview with Ukrainian president. London, March 27. Russia's communication watchdog told Russian media on Sunday to refrain from reporting an interview done with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and said it had started a probe into the outlets which had interviewed the Ukrainian leader. In a short statement distributed by the watchdog on social media and posted on its website, it said a host of Russian outlets had done an interview with Zelensky. Roskomnadzor warns the Russian media about the necessity of refraining from publishing this interview, it said. It did not give a reason for its warning. Chinese-U.S. regulators are working hard on solution to audit dispute, state-run newspaper reports. Shanghai, March 27. Chinese regulators and their U.S. counterparts are working hard to solve an audit dispute affecting U.S.-listed Chinese firms and want to achieve effective and sustainable cooperation as soon as possible, a state-run newspaper reported on Sunday. Citing a source close to Chinese regulators, the official China Securities Journal reported that the Chinese Securities Regulator Commission, CSRC, heard opinions from some U.S. listed Chinese companies during an online meeting on Sunday. Both Chinese and U.S. regulators are fully aware of each other's concerns and are moving toward each other and working hard to find solutions to the issue in order to achieve effective and sustainable cooperation as soon as possible, the source was cited as saying. This is in the best interests of the capital markets of both countries and global investors. CSRC said that the recent talks with U.S. regulators have been efficient, candid, and professional, the newspaper said. The comments come days after U.S. public company accounting regulator said that the recent media speculation about an imminent deal with China was premature, and it remained unclear if the Chinese government would grant the access required by a new U.S. listing law. Washington is demanding complete access to the books of U.S. listed Chinese companies, but Beijing bars foreign inspection of working papers from local accounting firms, a long simmering audit dispute that puts hundreds of billions of dollars of U.S. investments at stake. Chinese regulators have asked some of the country's U.S. listed firms, including Alibaba, Baidu, and JD.com, to prepare for more audit disclosures as Beijing steps up efforts to ensure they remain listed in New York, Reuters reported last week. The Financial Times and Bloomberg News also reported this month that China's securities watchdog is weighing a proposal that would allow U.S. regulators to inspect auditors' working papers for some companies as soon as this year. CSRC cautioned market participants not to blindly believe the speculation by some media with little knowledge of the details and direction of the talks, as such reports caused unnecessary disturbances to market expectations, the China Securities Journal reported on Sunday. Really? Box office. Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum's The Lost City takes down The Batman with $30 million debut. Los Angeles, March 27. Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum's screwball romantic comedy, The Lost City, collected $31 million at North American theaters over the weekend, a promising sign that Netflix hasn't completely seized on the meet-cute market. Of course, Paramount, which is behind The Lost City, did not rely on positive reviews or the tease of Tatum's bare behind to fuel ticket sales. The on-screen chemistry between Bullock and Tatum, who were inescapable on social media, billboards, and in trailers while promoting the film, were key in getting audiences to cinemas. That's a huge accomplishment in an era where familiar franchises have been dictating commercial success, at least compared to the promise of A-list stars. At the same time, The Lost City, an original adventure that has been described as Romancing the Stone meets Raiders of the Lost Ark, indicates that romantic comedies haven't entirely fallen out of favor with moviegoers. This is an excellent opening, says David A. Gross, who runs the movie consulting firm Franchise Entertainment Research. Romantic comedies have been in decline for a dozen years, well before the pandemic. The combination of big cast plus crowd-pleasing romance plus comedy plus adventure has worked before, and it's working again. The Lost City cost $68 million, which is fairly expensive for a rom-com. But Bullock and Tatum get compensated handsomely to headline in movies, and filming the explosion-heavy The Lost City on location in the Dominican Republic during COVID-19 did not come cheap. That price tag does not include the serious coin spent to market the movie, which premiered at South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin earlier this year. Aaron and Adam Nee directed The Lost City, an enormous action-adventure that takes place on a remote tropical jungle. The story follows Bullock as Loretta Sage, a middle-aged author who gets kidnapped by an eccentric billionaire, Harry Potter himself, Daniel Radcliffe, in a villainous role, in the hopes she can discover the ancient Lost City's treasure from her latest story. Ticket buyers were mostly receptive to The Lost City, which landed a B+ cinema score. In a win for Paramount, The Lost City marks the studio's third movie in 2022 to open in first place, following Scream and Jackass Forever. During the pandemic, Paramount largely stepped back from theatrical releases, instead selling titles like Aaron Sorkin's courtroom drama The Trial of the Chicago 7, Eddie Murphy's comedy sequel Coming to America, and Michael B. Jordan's action thriller Without Remorse to streaming services, other than A Quiet Place Part 2, which powered to nearly $300 million worldwide. The studio's slate was propped up by kid-friendly animated adventures Paw Patrol and Clifford the Big Red Dog. At the domestic box office, The Lost City took down reigning champion The Batman, which held the #1 spot for 3 weekends in a row. The superhero adventure, starring Robert Pattinson, took in $20 million between Friday and Sunday, enough for second place. Those ticket sales, a 44% decline from last weekend, are strong considering the movie has already been playing in theaters for a month. The Batman has generated $332 million in North America to date. In third place, the Indian war epic RRR, which stands for Radram Varanam Rudaram, grossed approximately $10 million from 1,200 theaters in its North American debut. That footprint marks one of the world's domestic rollouts for an Indian movie, one of the widest domestic rollouts for an Indian movie. RRR, which clocks in over 3 hours, cost $73 million to produce. Another new release, Bleecker Street's survival thriller Infinite Storm, with Naomi Watts, flopped in its debut, pulling in a disastrous $751,296 from 1,525 screens. Given mixed reviews, the film, about a climber who gets caught in a blizzard and attempts to save herself and a stranded stranger before succumbing to the elements, doesn't look like it'll rebound on the big screen. Tom Holland's video game adaptation Uncharted and Crunchyroll's manga adaptation Jujutsu Kaisen O, the movie, took spots 4 and 5, respectively, on box office charts. In its 6th weekend of release, Uncharted brought in $4.9 million from the 3,416 cinemas, boosting its North American tally to $135.5 million. Jujutsu Kaisen O, an otherwise under-the-radar anime film, amassed $4.5 million from 2,430 locations. It's a huge 73% decline in ticket sales from the movie's $17.6 million debut. Still, Jujutsu Kaisen O has earned a solid $27 million to date. Elsewhere, A24's action-adventure comedy fantasy sci-fi mashup Everything Everywhere All at Once earned $509,659 from just 10 screens in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, translating to $50,965 per screen. It marks the biggest limited opening weekend of the year, as well as one of the best starts ever for A24, the studio behind beloved indies such as Lady Bird, Moonlight, and Uncut Gems. The film will continue to expand to select markets on Friday before debuting nationwide on April 8th. Directed by Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, the well-reviewed Everything Everywhere All at Once stars Michelle Yeoh as a wife and mother who exists in a multiverse, a term popularized by Marvel comic book adventures. The cast also includes Ke Huy Quan, Stephanie Hsu, Jenny Slaford, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Ukraine asks Red Cross not to open office in Russia's Rostov-on-Don. March 27, Reuters. Ukraine has asked the International Committee of the Red Cross not to open a planned office in Russia's Rostov-on-Don, saying it would legitimize Moscow's humanitarian corridors and the abduction and forced deportation of Ukrainians. The head of the ICRC said on Thursday, after his talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, that agreement between the Russian and the Ukrainian armies was needed before civilians could be evacuated properly from war-torn Ukraine. Russian media reported that Red Cross chief Peter Marr asked Russia to facilitate the opening of a Red Cross office in Rostov-on-Don. Mikhailo Radusko, chairman of the Public Health Committee in Ukraine's parliament, appealed to the Red Cross to change its plans. The committee calls on the International Committee of the Red Cross that it would not legitimize the humanitarian corridors on the territory of the Russian Federation, as well as that it would not support the abduction of Ukrainian and its forced deportation, Radutsky said in a statement. The ICRC told Reuters it had first-hand information about reports of forced evacuations to Russia from Ukraine and that it did not facilitate any such operation. The aid agency said the potential opening of an office in Rostov-on-Don was part of efforts to scale up its operations in the region to meet humanitarian needs where they arise. Our priority is to reach victims of armed conflict wherever they are in order to assist them, the ICRC said. Rostov-on-Don is the largest Russian city on Ukraine's eastern border and administrative capital of the Rostov region, which has been used by Russia for temporary accommodation camps for people transported out of the war zone. Russia said last week it had evacuated several 100,000 people from Ukraine since the start of what it calls is a special military operation to disarm and denazify its neighbor. Ukraine says that Russia has illegally deported thousands of people since the war started, including about 15,000 civilians from the besieged city of Mariupol. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has killed thousands of people, displaced nearly 4 million, and raised fears of a wider confrontation between Russia and the West. Shanghai to lock down in 2 stages for testing as COVID cases spike. Shanghai, March 27. China's financial hub of Shanghai said on Sunday it would lock down the city in 2 stages to carry out COVID-19 testing over a 9-day period after it reopened a new daily record for asymptomatic infections. Authorities said they would divide Shanghai into 2 for the exercise, using the Huangpu River that passes through the city as a guide. Districts to the east of the river and some to its west will be locked down and tested between March 28 and April 1st. The remaining areas will be locked down and tested between April 1st and April 5th. Public transports, including ride-hailing services, in these areas will be suspended when they are locked down, the city government said on its official WeChat account, adding that unapproved vehicles will not be allowed on the roads. It also said all firms and factories will suspend manufacturing or work remotely during the lockdown, apart from those involved in offering public services or supplying food. The public is asked to support, understand, and cooperate with the city's epidemic prevention and control work and participation in nuclear acid testing in an orderly manner, the government added. Shanghai has battled a new COVID-19 surge for nearly a month, and for Sunday, it reported its highest daily number of cases since the initial outbreak in China receded. The city recorded 2,631 new asymptomatic cases, which accounted for nearly 60% of China's total new asymptomatic cases that day, plus 47 new cases with symptoms. While the number of cases in Shanghai remains the modest by global standards, the city of 26 million people has become a testing ground for China's zero COVID strategy as it tries to bring the highly infectious Omicron variant under control. Shanghai authorities have previously resisted a broad lockdown of the city to avoid destabilizing its economy and opted for a more bespoke slicing and gridding approach, which involves screening neighborhoods one by one. Stock exchange. The city houses factories belonging to the likes of Tesla or Volkswagen and the country's largest chip maker, SMIC, as well as the mainland China headquarters of many international companies. The Shanghai Stock Exchange said on Sunday it would work to maintain the steady operation of capital markets during this special virus control period. The bourse will continue to vet share sale plans by companies seeking to list on the tech-focused STAR market, strengthen online communications with issues and underwriters, and offer free services for virtual debut ceremonies, it said. The exchange will also listed companies to delay. This exchange will also allow listed companies to delay filings of their quarterly or annual reports if they're affected by the pandemic restrictions, and will fast-track bond issuance approvals for virus-hit companies, it added. Frustrations. Over 14 million Shanghai residents have taken antigen tests, the Shanghai Municipal Health Commission said on Sunday. But some residents have grumbled about seemingly endless cycles of testing and the piecemeal approach to ending transmission chains, with some saying the cost of zero COVID had become too high. Frustrations have also been felt elsewhere in China. Earlier this month, in footage shared on social media, a crowd of people in the northeastern city of Shenyang banged against the windows of a clothing market as they shouted in frustration at yet another round of COVID-19 tests. China reported a total of 4,448 new asymptomatic infections on March 26, up from 4,430 a day earlier, including 1,007 new cases in the northeastern province of Jilin, currently under lockdown. The country reported 1,254 new confirmed cases with symptoms, down from 1,335 a day earlier. Of the new cases, 1,217 were locally transmitted versus 1,280 a day earlier. There were no deaths reported on March 26, leaving the death toll at 4,638. As of March 26, mainland China had confirmed 143,240 cases of COVID-19. And I think that's enough of that. COVID. Thank you. You have a pleasant day.